Star Trek Nemesis was supposed to be the grand finale for the Next Generation crew, but instead it became one of the franchise's biggest disappointments. So here are 5 facts about Star Trek Nemesis that you probably didn't know. From stolen props, prosthetics designed to make Tom Hardy look like Patrick Stewart, around 50 minutes cut from the film, but mostly a director who barely knew Star Trek. And with all of that, there's no wonder that this was for the longest time considered the worst Star Trek film. Well, until Into Darkness, and then Section 31. Oh God, I'm going to have to do Section 31, aren't I? There's no doubt that the TNG era of films was an extremely mixed bag. The high of First Contact was countered by the mediocrity of Generations and the missed opportunity of Insurrection. So, with the crew aging out and the previous movie Insurrection not doing great at the box office, Nemesis could have been treated as a final outing for the Next Generation crew. With that in mind, you would have thought that a steady hand would have been the best option. Surely someone like Jonathan Frakes would have been a surefire choice for director. No. Instead, Stuart Baird, who was mostly known as an editor with only 2 previous director credits to his name in the form of Executive Decision and US Marshals, Baird did not have any experience with Star Trek beyond being aware of the TV shows and movies. However, Rik Berman tried to explain that this fresh blood would be great for the franchise. And look, he wasn't wrong to think like that. Nicholas Meyer directed 2 of the best Star Trek films. And, like Baird, Meyer had no previous experience with the franchise beyond being aware of the show. Unlike Baird, though, Meyer went on to watch Star Trek, understand its themes, and make decisions on the direction he wanted to go in Wrath of Khan based on who the characters were. When Baird was brought on board for Nemesis, according to the 50-year mission by Edward Gross and Mark A. Altman, Frakes reached out to Baird and said, "We're really here to help. You'll find that we're a very strong team and we know how to do this, and we're really happy to help make the best movie you can." And Baird decided not to take up Frakes on this offer. And while the cast did discuss any issues they had with the direction he gave to their characters, he still struggled to get it right. For example, he kept calling LeVar Burton Laverne and thought that Geordi was an alien. And whilst Frakes was more diplomatic in his criticism, Marina Sirtis wasn't shy about calling Baird an idiot. Baird tried to defend himself by saying in a BBC interview, "Yes, it was fun. It's big entertainment, but I know the fans take it hugely seriously. I took it very seriously to give you 2 hours of entertainment with as much bang for your buck and thrills, spills, emotion, and humor. That was my task, and not to get too precious about it." Unfortunately, his bang for buck was the first Trek film to bomb at the box office and was a massive part of it taking 6 years for Star Trek to return to the big screen and 12 years for it to return to TV. I mean, maybe it could have been different if they'd made different choices in the edit. "50 minutes. Rik Berman confirmed that 1/3 of the original movie was cut, and having watched it, it could have changed the movie. Despite a strong start to the film with the murder in the Romulan Senate and then the wedding of Riker and Troy, according to Frakes, and I agree, one of the main reasons Nemesis fails is that there was more emphasis on Shinzon and not enough on the crew. However, within that 50 minutes of deleted scenes, we have Picard and Data sharing wine and discussing mortality, Crusher leaving the Enterprise for Starfleet Medical, Wesley Crusher returning, and the customary Worf being told no.
"I recommend we raise shields and go to red alert." "Not quite yet, Mr. Wolf."
All of these scenes gave the crew more depth and gave them an opportunity to move on from the Enterprise. Without a doubt, even half the scenes cut would have somewhat improved the film, even if it was just this one scene.
Try that button, sir.
About time.
Though, talking about the captain's chair. Over the years, Star Trek productions have experienced their fair share of thefts. From original studio model of the Enterprise used in the pilot The Cage, to uniforms and even Worf's Klingon forehead, these would have been taken only to appear on listings being sold for huge prices to collectors. Oh, except for the 1990 uniform heist where they didn't want money, but an exchange for a replica kit from Knight Rider. Nemesis wasn't immune to thefts. Midway through the shoot, the captain's chair was stolen from the bridge set. This resulted in the producers having to fork out $15,000 for a replacement, with the studio suspecting it was an inside job. But in a more light-hearted moment, the crew of Star Trek Enterprise, who were shooting in the soundstage next door, had a little fun, and Scott Bakula presented Patrick Stewart with a fake wooden replacement chair labeled Captain. As a TV show on a budget, sets were built to be long-lasting and not to move, at least voluntarily. This always presented a problem during battle sequences or when the crew experienced turbulence. As a result, in order to make it look like the ship was hit by a torpedo or was experiencing extreme gravimetric distortions, the cameramen would shake and the cast would rock themselves in various directions. This, of course, has led to some brilliant videos where people have stabilized the footage. However, Nemesis took a different approach. In something that was actually positive for this movie, the bridge of the Enterprise E was built on a gimbal so that they could shake the entire set. It actually led to a big improvement in the later battle scenes, with the movements of the actors feeling more natural than they ever had felt, making Nemesis seem heavier and a lot more physical than Star Trek has been before. Without a doubt, casting Tom Hardy as Shinzon, Picard's clone, was fantastic. However, there was one problem. Tom Hardy didn't really look like Patrick Stewart. So the makeup team did everything they could to try and make Hardy look like him, using fake noses, altered chins, and facial prosthetics molded from Patrick Stewart's own face. They even added the scar you see on Shinzon's face to disguise some of the differences. Were they successful? I would say mostly. And one of the highlights of Nemesis is Tom Hardy, and he certainly looks very different to the Tom Hardy we know. However, it would be some time, and a completely different franchise, before they would find the perfect alternative for a young Patrick Stewart.
So this is what becomes of us.
So there you have it. 5 facts about Star Trek Nemesis. Now tell me, do you think this was the worst Star Trek film? And you know what, tell me a fact that you know as well. I do read and try and reply to every single comment. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, you can check out the rest of the 5 Things series right here. And if you want to support this channel, please go ahead, like the video, hit that subscribe button. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers, and I would love to have you on board. Thanks for watching.